Rasulallah. لبيك يا حسين
لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين والمحمد وآل محمد بلند الصلوات
اللهم صل على محمد. ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الهداة المهديين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقتلتهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكري فضائلهم ملعونين. Amma ba'd, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of Yawm Arhameen, of the graves of the Shuhada, Ulama and Siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahlul Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam, Arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the barakat of these majalis. Ya Allah, forgive our sins. Ya Allah, forgive the sins of our parents. Ya Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. O Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa'ah. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. O Allah, those that have brought hajat, that have difficulties, that have sorrows in their life, for the sake of the night of Abul Fadl al-Abbas, Ya Allah, fulfill their hajat, remove their sorrows, and dispel all their difficulties. Ya Allah, keep safe the Shia of Ali Muhammad around the world. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to go on ziyarat of Abi Abdullah this year and every year. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq for Hajj and Umrah. Ya Allah, keep our ulama and our maraja at the head of our institutions, give them long and healthy lives. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true muntadhireen, his true awaiters, for the acceptance of these du'as and any other du'as that you brothers and sisters have brought on this night. Please recite 3 of your loudest salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim. The characteristics of an Insaan-ul-Kaamil has been our discussion point. The Insaan-ul-Kaamil is the one that manifests all of the sifat and the characteristics of Allah within His wujud, and He brings them into this realm of the makhluk. And today I wanted to look at the characteristic that is known as sidq, truthfulness. You know that the tongue is the gateway to many things, the gateway to many sins. And so the control of the tongue, or being able to temper that tongue, is one of our essential steps to be able to achieve these maqams of kamal, of perfection. Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi says, the one who speaks a lot will err a lot. The one who's accustomed to constantly speaking. You know, certain people just have a problem. They can't stop speaking. They have to have a comment on everything. And that's a spiritual disease. It says the one that can't control his tongue, or the one that speaks a lot, he will err a lot. Meaning that he'll increase the likelihood of himself lying. He'll increase the likelihood of him belittling people, of speaking ghibah. 70 from amongst all of the gunahane kabira, 20 of them are linked to the tongue. Of the greater sins, 20 of them are linked to the tongue. And so to be able to control that tongue is to be able to avoid and control ourselves from falling into those gunahane kabira. Could I ask everyone to move forward and just fill in all the gaps? It'll save everyone from hopping over your heads. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. There's some space around here as well. If people want to move across, it'll be easier for those that are coming after. Ahsantum. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So being able to control it is important. The controlling of the tongue is what will help you also in your other ibadat. Allama Tabatabai rahmatullah alayhi was once asked by someone that how is it that I can create concentration in my salah? So when I pray, I have that huzur qalb, I'm able to concentrate in that prayer. And Allama Tabatabai said, speak less. If you speak less, in your mind there'll be less noise. So when you go to stand to pray, your mind will be clearer and you'll be able to focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. And so the control of the tongue is very important. To have a tongue that is not harsh. You know, someone comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Says there's this lady, she's very mutadayyin, she's very obedient, she does all of her salah, she fasts, she does salatul layl, she does all of these things. She's very, very good in terms of worship. But Ya Rasulullah, she's a bit harsh with her tongue. When she talks to people, she's harsh. The Holy Prophet says she's a person of hell. No matter how much ibadah she does, but if she is harsh with her tongue, then she is a dweller of hell. Even when Musa alayhi salam is being told to go to Fir'aun, that is a person that is deviated, a person that has moved away from the deen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to him, Musa, go, call Fir'aun towards the truth. But Musa, make sure that when you speak to him, speak qawlan layyina. Speak nicely to him. So speak nicely to him. So to have a sweet tongue, not have any harshness in the tongue, is very important. And the best state for the tongue to be in is in the state of truth. Because if the tongue is truthful, then one's actions also become truthful. What you say and what you do must be in line with the principles of truth. In Surah Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Holy Prophet, He's saying, look, make sure that you honor your oaths even with the mushrikeen, even with those individuals who are your enemies. It says, honor your oaths with them, keep your promises with them, make sure you're truthful with them. The greatest sadiq in all of existence is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Insaan-ul-Kaamil draws from that sifat of sadiq, draws it into his wujud, and he becomes the manifestation of that sadiq of Allah upon the earth. And so then he becomes the most truthful of individuals, and he can only be the true sadiq or the true siddiq. And this is why in the event of Mubahila, when the Holy Prophet was going to call Ahlul Bayt and bring them out for that debate, he told Salman, says, Salman, I want you to go out and announce to the people that I will only take those individuals that have never lied in their life. All of the companions that were there, hopeful that maybe the Prophet will take us, all of the wives that were hopeful that maybe he'll take us. But the Holy Prophet said, no, only those individuals can go with me that have never spoken a lie in their life. The Holy Prophet made it clear at that point that there are no other Siddiq or Siddiqa in this world except for these one. If anyone comes after me and claims to be Siddiq or claims to be Siddiqa, you should know that they are a liar. Only these are the true Siddiq. It is only these who are those that are truly truthful. Everyone else is a liar. So truth is one of those sifat that the Insaan-ul-Kaamil has. It's manifest within his own wujud. Even before the announcement of prophethood, the Holy Prophet is seen standing outside in the desert, and the sun is shining on his face and it's burning his skin. And they come to him and they say to him, why are you waiting here? Why don't you go and stand in the shade? He says, no, yesterday I told Ammar Yasir that I would meet him in this place. I would meet him in this spot. But Ammar is delayed, so I'm staying here and waiting for him, because this is where I promised to meet him. That level of sidq, that level of truthfulness, that level of loyalty towards a promise. Do I have it? What would a few steps, what difference would they make? But yet the Holy Prophet knew, no. When one has given their word in regards to something, then that word cannot be broken. Fath Makkah, when the Muslims conquered Mecca and they reached the Kaaba, the Holy Prophet asked, who is the key holder of the Kaaba? And they told him, it's a mushrik by the name of Uthman ibn Talha. So the Holy Prophet called him, said that we want the keys to the Kaaba. Uthman ibn Talha gives the Holy Prophet the keys and he says, this is an amana for you. I've given these keys as a trust to you. The Holy Prophet goes, opens the locks, the Muslims go in, they destroy the idols inside the Kaaba. He comes back out and he begins to look for Uthman ibn Talha. Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet, comes to the Holy Prophet and says, Ya Rasulullah, give me the keys to the Kaaba. I will be the key holder of the Kaaba now. Because holding the keys of the Kaaba was a huge position. Even until now, people are vying for that position of being the key holder of the Kaaba. Abbas comes, he says, my nephew, give me the keys to the Kaaba. The Holy Prophet says, no, they must go back to Uthman ibn Talha. Says, why? Says, because he gave them to me as an amana. He said to me, I'm giving these to you as a trust. And so the amana must be returned back to the person that owns it. They returned the keys back to Uthman ibn Talha. He says, why did you give it back? The Holy Prophet said, you gave it to me as an amana. There and then he becomes Muslim. He says, if this is what your religion teaches, that when you have been given a trust, you maintain that trust. There are three things within the religion of Islam that do not look at whether a person is a kafir or a mu'min. It doesn't matter whether the person is a kafir or a mu'min. The first is in regards to respecting your parents. Doesn't matter whether your parents are mu'min or they are kafir. You must respect them. The second is in regards to keeping your promises that you have made verbally. Whether you've made it with a non-Muslim or you've made it with a Muslim, you must keep that promise. And the third thing is in regards to trusts that have been entrusted to you, amanat that have been given to you, to be trustworthy. Even if that amana may be a pen, a car, or even a secret that someone has told you. You cannot go out and start telling everyone. And that is one of the easiest promises to betray. One of the easiest trusts to betray. The one of a promise. Someone comes and tells you that, I'm going to tell you something, but please don't tell anyone. And that's a surefire way of making sure that everyone knows. You tell someone that, make sure you don't tell anyone. And then they go to the next person and, Nabil said this, but make sure you don't tell anyone. Yeah, and then before you know it, the whole community knows. And that is a breaking of that trust, it's breaking of those amana. It's so important that the narrations from the Ma'soom say, do not look at a man's, how long a man's ruku' or sajda is. Because he may have formed a habit of praying and he's afraid of breaking that habit. Rather, look towards his truthfulness and his trustworthiness to know what sort of individual that person is. Don't look at their ibadah, because that's just habit. We see it. Come for Layal al-Qadr. People, are they doing ibadah or are they just fulfilling a tick box exercise? You see, people are there, they're half asleep, they're looking around, Ya Rabbi, Bika Ya Allah, Bika Ya Allah. Because they're just ticking a box. It's not ibadah. They're just trying to make themselves feel good that I did something. And maybe it might just stick. And maybe I might get something from God. It's not worship. Because worship requires khushu', worship requires concentration, worship requires humbleness, worship requires all of these things. I'm so hurt, or I'm facing so many difficulties in my life. Ya Allah, please help me. But how am I asking? One hand's back, I'm leaning against the wall, leg is stretched out. God, I got so many problems, please help me. And we're like, oh yeah, God's just gonna, God's, there you are. My abd, where have you been all this time? So people worship just out of habit. It's not true worship. And so the Ma'soom says, if you want to know the worth of a person, you want to know whether a person is a good person or a bad person, Don't look at their sajda. Don't look at their ruku. Don't look at how long they take to pray. Look at how trustworthy they are and how truthful they are. Do they tell the truth? A mu'min, both his outward appearance and his internal are both beautiful. His inside, his personality is attractive. His outward is attractive as well. Just as important. He looks good. He combs his hair. He wears perfume. You know, the Holy Prophet would have a bowl of water by his door, by his front door. And before he would leave the house, he would look at himself and fix his hair in that bowl of water before going out. He would wear only the nicest and cleanest of clothes. They may not have been the most expensive, but they were the nicest and cleanest. One day, someone's with Imam al-Jawad and they smell a scent of the Imam of Attar. And he says to the Imam, that's a really expensive perfume you've got on there, Imam. I know what that is. And the Imam says, you think this is important? You think this is expensive? You should have smelt what my father, Imam al-Radha, used to wear. That was the good stuff, in our words. Even when it comes to perfumes and attar and things like this, we have a hadith about it, that there is no israf when it comes to purchasing these things. When it comes to perfume and things, there's no israf. You can't spend and be like, oh my God, this is excessive. When it comes in the pursuit of good perfume. So the mu'min, both his outward is appealing, is attractive to people. He looks good. He smells good. He dresses good. But along with that, his inner self is also attractive. He's truthful. He doesn't belittle people. He honors and respects others. And one of those beautifications is truth and fulfilling of those promises and maintaining the trusts. The first type of truth is truth in one's intention. That's the fundamental. When I have truthfulness within my intention, then I end up with truthfulness in my actions and in my words. But if my niyyah is corrupted from beforehand, then no matter what I do, it won't be with the purity of intention. It will always be for an ulterior motive. And that person always gets caught out. Maybe not now, a few years down the line. Because their niyyah is corrupted. In the Makarimul Akhlaq of Imam al-Sajjad, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, in the opening lines, the Imam says, وَبَلِّغْ بِإِيمَانِ أَكْمَلَ الْإِيمَانِ. Oh Allah, allow my Iman to reach the most perfect of faith. وَجَعَلْ يَقِينِي أَفْضَلَ الْيَقِينِ. And my certainty to be of the greatest of certainties. وَانْتَهِي بِنِيَّتِي إِلَىٰ أَحْسَنِ النِّيَّاتِ. And make my intentions to be the best of intentions. You need to have a good intention in everything you do. Everything you do. It's so important. Everything that you do, you need to ask yourself, what was my intention behind it? What is my niyyah behind it? Is it pure? The hadith says that have a good niyyah in everything, even in your eating and your sleeping. Why am I eating what I'm eating? Why am I eating so much? Why am I sleeping so much? What's my niyyah behind sleeping? What am I trying to achieve with this sleep? And most people are just ghafil of this niyyah. They just eat because they want to eat. And they just sleep. And it's very much like the lives of the animals. There's no aql in there. There's no intellect in there. They just go and they just sleep. Why are you sleeping? Oh, I was tired. There's no niyyah behind it. There's no clear intention behind it. There's no drive. So the Imam is saying, everything you do, you must have a good intention behind it. And this is where that muhasabah at the end of the night comes in, taking account of yourself. That why did I choose to sit in the place that I sat? Why did I choose to wear these clothes today? What was my niyyah behind saying what I said? What was my intention behind sitting the way that I sat? Because if you try and dig into it, we begin to uncover certain underlying spiritual diseases. And I've many a times, I'm sure, here, I've given the example of the shoe rack. Now, every Husayniyah in the world, every masjid in the world has a shoe rack. Yeah? And everywhere you go, by and large, there's a sign that says, please put your shoes on the rack. And everywhere you go, by and large, there is a vast number of shoes on the ground, not in the rack, even though the rack has space. And so you question, why is it that I didn't put my shoes on the rack? The place where they're meant to go. What's my niyyah behind it? So I think, okay, well, maybe I thought to myself, well, this doesn't apply to me. I'm Sheikh Nabil Awan. I don't want me to put my shoes on the rack, do they? So I left them on the floor. It's okay, I'm special. Or I am the president or the office bearer of this. It doesn't apply to me. Or my elders helped build this center. Doesn't apply to me. I'm the biggest donor. Whatever it may be. Or it could be something as simple as, I was getting late for the majlis. I didn't want to miss it. So I just took my shoes off because what's important? Majlis of Imam Hussein. Or I go to another one and I say, well, I just couldn't be bothered. All three of these are indicative of spiritual diseases. The first, where I'm saying Nabil Awan, he doesn't need to put his shoes on the rack, it shows my arrogance and my pride. My elders built it, I'm part of the committee, I'm a big donor. All of that comes under that arrogance, that ujub, that riyah, that kibr. I can't be bothered is an indication of my laziness, which is a spiritual disease itself. That I'm lazy. And that laziness translates then to my ibadat and my relationships and all the other things. But where did we start from? The niyyah behind where I'm putting my shoes. And so when you do muhasabah at night of your own self, this is how deep you need to go into it. Why did I sit in the way that I sat? I took up the space of two people. Why did I park in that way? Well, because it was my car and it's new and I don't want anyone to park near it and dent my new car. So I took up two spaces so no one could park on either side of me. So all of this, when you analyze your niyyah, you begin to uncover these various spiritual diseases. And so pure intentions are so important. In fact, we have a hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Says, Jamilul maqsadi yadullu ala taharatil mawlid. Says pure niyyah, pure intention is a sign of pure birth, of legitimate birth. The one that always has bad niyyah. There are some people that their default for everything they do is they have a bad niyyah behind it. They have a bad intention behind it. says that having a pure intention is a sign of pure birth. The purity of intention, if you have a pure intention in what you do, and then when you speak, it affects the hearts of people. The pure heart influences the hearts. Sayyid Mahdi Qawwam was one of the ulama, and he was sort of one of these fringe ulama in the way that he did his tabligh. He would hang out with all of the gangsters and all of the criminals of Tehran. He would go and meet with them, go into their gatherings, he would sit with them, he would talk with them. And when it came to his death, his funeral, the Haram of Ma'suma was filled with all of these gangsters and criminals. And people were afraid, like, he's gathered. But they were all absolutely in love with Sayyid Mahdi Qawwam. One night, after the Sham-e Ghariban Majlis, he comes out of the Majlis, he's with his aide, the person that's walking with him, and he says, you know what, let's go down this street. Now at that time, this is pre-revolution. At that time, that street was a bad street. It was the red light district of Tehran. Said Mahdi says, let's go down this street. The guy that's with him is like, Sayyidina, it's probably not a good shout to go down this street. I mean, people could... Said Mahdi says, no, we're going. So as they're walking down the street, they see a young lady standing on the street corner. Said Mahdi Qawwam says to his aide, go call her over. He's like saying, no, come on. Said Mahdi is like, no, go call her over. So he goes to her and he says, Said Mahdi is calling you. So she comes. Yes. He puts his hand in his pocket. The envelope of the hadiyah that he had received for reciting the majlis, he says to her sister, this is a gift for you from Imam al-Hussein. But the promise is this that you must make. That as long as this money suffices you, you will not come back out onto the streets. Says Imam Hussein has sent you a gift. And he gives it to her. He goes. A year later, he's in Karbala, in the Haram of Abi Abdullah. And a man comes up to him. Are you Sayyid Mahdi? Says, yes. Says, my wife would like to have a word with you. Sayyid Mahdi Qawwam says, no problem. Says, he goes into the sahan, there's a lady there, muhajjaba, hijab, proper, with noor. She comes towards him and she says, Sayyid, you don't recognize me, do you? You don't recognize me. He says, no. She says, last year, Sham-e Ghariban, you handed me an envelope and said to me that this is a gift from Imam al-Hussein. She says, after you left, you never looked back. But I sat down on the floor and I cried for 15 minutes that what is it that Hussein alayhi salam wants with someone like me? That Hussein is that Kareem Imam that he's looking towards me. Says from that moment I took that money, I went home, I didn't come back out, and my life began to change. I married this man, and this is our first trip to Karbala, and we've seen you here today. Hussein alayhi salam doesn't leave anyone. Last night, as I was standing during the matam, a brother approached me. I don't know, I didn't see his face properly. And whoever you are, don't come and tell me who you are. He came to me and he said in my ear, he said, thank you, your majlis just saved my iman. And he walked away. But I want to say to that brother, Azizam, I didn't save your iman. Imam Hussein alayhi salam saved your iman. You came to the majlis of Abi Abdullah. Hussein alayhi salam selected you to come to his majlis, and Hussein alayhi salam saw the purity in your heart, and Hussein alayhi salam held on to you and he took you. It's nothing to do with me. I'm just telling you what they say. And so if you hold on to their heart, hold on to their hands, their coattails. But just make sure that this light that is illuminated in your heart, you never let it extinguish. So many times these lights illuminate in our hearts and we extinguish them. Our heart becomes illuminated through the dhikr of Ahlul Bayt, through the masa'ib of Ahlul Bayt. And then we go and we do ghibah. We go and we look at something haram. We go and we listen to something haram. We go and commit a haram. And that light extinguishes. You have an opportunity that this light that is illuminated, you keep it lit within yourself. The first stage of truthfulness is purity in niyyah. Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they look at the purity in niyyah. They don't look at the sins that you have committed. They don't look at where you're from or your ethnicity or how much you earn. They just say, how pure is the niyyah of this person that has come to my majlis. And if your intention is pure, then they will take you. The second stage is the truthfulness of the tongue. From amongst the sins that shorten the life of an individual is the one that gives a false oath and the one that lies. Swearing wrongly over something. A lot of us sometimes, it's just part of our lingo. As we're talking, we'll be like, yeah, wallah, wallah. Or qasam. But it may be something random that we're speaking about. But we've used a shari'i qasam for it. And so we've given a false oath and we've told a lie. And that shortens your life. Lying in any form is not acceptable. Lying in any form is not acceptable. If I could ask everyone just to please move forward again, however much you can. There's a lot of brothers at the back that don't have space. Please recite salawat and come forward. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad ajil farajhum. Please, if you could fill up this side here as well. Please carry on reciting salawat until we finish. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So narrations say lying is what will shorten your life. Even lying in a joke. The hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen says, woe unto the one that lies in order to make people laugh. Woe unto him, woe unto him. The one that tells a joke. We just do it normally for us. Be like, oh, someone just scratched your car. And the person's like, what? You're like, nah, I'm only joking. That's a lie. And it's a sin. And actually, there may be a double sin there. Because scaring the mu'min is also a sin. So where you scare the mu'min through your words, through your actions, that itself is also a sin. But we do it so easily. It's so easy for us to do it. Because our souls have become so corrupted that we just constantly will tell these lies. And it won't affect the hearts either. That's the problem. When it starts to fill up, the bank of sins fills. Then it doesn't break the heart. The person doesn't feel anything. Rather, they laugh at it. They find it funny because the heart has been so corrupted through sin that the darkness has become entrenched within them. And often we have friends like that, who the darkness has become, and a most serious subject or a time they wish to make us laugh. And then that is the friend that the Quran speaks about, that on Yawm al-Qiyamah there will be people dragged to hell, where they will call out, "Oh, woe unto me, how I wish I hadn't taken this person to be my friend. Because of him today I'm going to hell." So having that pure tongue, not lying, all of the 11th Imam says, all of wretchedness is gathered into a house. All of sin is gathered into a house. And the key for that house is lying. Lying in jokes, lying in conversation, false oaths, all of these. They open the door to that house of sins and open it for an individual. So after, when it comes to speaking, then it's truthfulness in actions, fulfilling those promises. Amir al-Mu'mineen says there is nothing more important in the wajibat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than fulfilling promises. It's from amongst the sifat and the characteristics of Allah Himself. And dua Jawshan Kabir, what is it that we recite? Ya man huwa fi ahdihi wa fi. Oh, the one who fulfills his promises. Ya man huwa fi wafa'ihi qawi. Oh, the one who is strong in his fulfillment of those promises. Iman, in narrations we find that Iman is based upon two things: being trustful and fulfilling one's promises. If these two things are not there, a person cannot hope to ever achieve the maqam of being a mu'min. One has to fulfill the oath of loyalty that we have made to people, those promises that we have made to people. And those oaths extend the oath to Allah. That, O Bani Adam, did we not take an oath from you? Alam ahad alaykum ya Bani Adam. Did we not take an oath from you? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, Alastu bi rabbikum, am I not your Lord? And all of existence said, yes, Bala, you are. So have you forgotten that? Fulfilling the oath to God, fulfilling the oath to the hujjah of God. Because we have an oath with the Imam of our time, an oath that we made in primordial realms, an oath that we talk about every day in Dua Ahad when we recite it in the morning after Salat al-Fajr. Allahumma inni ujaddidu fi sabihati yawmi hadha. Oh Allah, I'm renewing my pledge, my allegiance to you, to the Imam on this day. What is the renewal? What are we renewing if we never made an oath in the first place? We didn't make the oath in this world. We made it in Alam al-Dhar. In that atomic form, where Allah asked all of existence about His rububiyyah, the risalat of the Holy Prophet, and the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Everything in existence was asked about this. The animals and the plants and the mountains and the rocks and the human beings. We have a hadith that Amir al-Mu'mineen says to Qanbar, he says, "O Qanbar, our wilayah was taken from all of existence. Those from amongst the plants that accepted our wilayah entered this world as sweet fruit and as edible plants for you. And those that did not accept the wilayah entered into this world as bitter and poisonous for you." Those animals that accepted that wilaya entered this world as halal meat animals for you to consume. Those that rejected or didn't run to accept that wilaya entered this world as haram meat animals and became haram for you to consume. And those that accepted from amongst the humans were born with this wilaya in their hearts and were born in the households that had wilaya. And those that didn't were not born with this wilaya. They were not born with this wilaya. But that doesn't mean that the ones that were born with the wilaya can't leave the wilaya, and those that were not born with the wilaya cannot enter into the wilaya. There are many people sitting here that were not born Shia, but yet the light of wilaya came to them, and they entered into the fold of the wilaya. And such is that karamat of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So fulfilling that oath, what is it that my Imam wants from me in terms of what I'm doing? The brothers who are constantly laughing, if you could please desist, it's rather distracting. What is it that the Imam wants from me? What is that loyalty that he expects from me? That I'm willing to give everything that I have, my life, my wealth, my children, my very existence upon his path. Upon his path. Am I willing to put aside what my own opinions are, my own wants and my own desires for the sake of my Imam? Because the one who we remember today, he is the flag bearer of loyalty. Abbas alayhi salam, no ordinary individual. Abbas is all his wants, all his desires, he puts aside. The Urdu poet puts it beautifully. He says, "Jab hawa mein kuch nami mehsoos ki Abbas ne, ehtiyatan apne सांस रोक लिए अब्बास ने, मुझे कौसर सर उठाकर देखती रह गई, इतनी ऊंचाई पर रख दी तिश्नगी अब्बास ने." That Abbas alayhi salam, the wafa of Abbas, if you want to learn how to be loyal to your Imam, then it is at the door of Abbas. You know, when they brought all of the items that were looted from Ahlul Bayt to Yazid Mal'un, and they began to list for him, this is the shirt of Hussein that we took. One by one, they brought all of the things to him, until they brought for him the alam. They said, this is the raya of Hussein, this is the flag of Hussein. Yazid, seeing this flag, the narration says, he stood up and sat down 3 times. And he said, tell me, who was the one that held the alam of Hussein? They said to him, it was his brother. He says, surely this is the true loyalty of a brother to a brother. They say, we don't understand, what do you mean? He says, look at this whole flag from top to bottom. It's the cloth on it, the wood on it, all of it is damaged. There is only one place that is not damaged, and that is the place where a hand was. This tells me that whoever held this flag did not let it go until his life left him. Says he held on to that flag, he protected that flag with everything that he had. He never let the flag fall. But who told Yazid then that Abbas was still alive when the flag fell? Because they'd severed the arms of Abbas. When one puts all of their wants and their desires aside for their Mawla, they become Babul Hawaij. They become the door of wishes. And you have all come with your wishes on the night of Abbas alayhi salam. There are many who may not be Shia in this hall, but they've come to the door of Abbas to ask. And you will be granted. There is no doubt in my mind. But do not forget from where you got it. Abbas, from a young age, all he heard is Abbas is for Karbala, Abbas is for Karbala. In Siffin, when he went out to fight Ibn Sha'fa and his 7 sons, and he killed all 7 sons and Ibn Sha'fa himself, and Amirul Mu'mineen, all the Mu'mineen that were with Amirul Mu'mineen, they all started shouting Takbir, Takbir. Amirul Mu'mineen called out, Abbas irji'i ila al-khayam, Abbas returned back to the tents. They said, Mawla, this battle has been going on for so long. If you had someone like Abbas amongst us, why didn't you let Abbas go out and fight? Imam says, no, innahu zukhrun lil Hussein. This Abbas of mine is the treasure of Hussein for the day of Ashura. Abbas is not for any of these battles. And so all his life he heard that Abbas is for Karbala. Amirul Mu'mineen on his deathbed, when he was placing the hand of all of his children into the hand of Imam al-Hasan, and one young boy stood in the corner crying. al-Baneen ran over, says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, did my Abbas do something wrong? And Amir al-Mu'mineen says, no, al-Baneen, no. But Abbas's hand will go in the hand of Hussein. For Abbas is for Hussein in Karbala. And so when Sayyidul Shuhada made the intention to leave Medina, Abbas never questioned, he left. When they went to Mecca, and then from Mecca, Imam Hussein said, Abbas, we're moving. Abbas never questioned, he left. Towards Kufa they were going until they reached the plains of Karbala. And Imam al-Hussein said to Abbas, this is the place where we will set up tents. Abbas never questioned. But in his heart, Abbas knew that this is that Karbala that I was told about. This is that Karbala that I have been waiting for. And so when the night of Ashura came, and the enemy wanted to start the battle, Abbas was ready. But Imam al-Hussein called him and said, Abbas, not now. Abbas, I want you to go and ask them for one extra night. This is the general of the army, the commander of the army. Imam is saying to him, go to Umar ibn Sa'ad and ask him please to give us one night. Abbas puts aside all his pride. For the sake of his Imam, he goes and he asks for one night so that Imam al-Hussein can do dua and salah. The day of Ashura dawns. One by one the companions go out and die. And Abbas is coming to the Imam. My Imam, give me permission to go out and fight. And Imam would reply to him with one thing. Abbas, anta sahibu liwa'i wa anta kabshu katibati. Says Abbas, how can I let you go out? Abbas, how can I let you go out? You are the commander of my army. You are the flag bearer of my army. And Abbas would go. And Bani Hashim went, the children of Aqil went, Ali Akbar went, one by one they all went, and Abbas would come back. Imam, give me permission to go out and fight. And Abi Abdullah looked at him again and said, Abbas, anta sahibu liwa'i wa anta kabshu katibati. Abbas, you are the flag bearer of this army. You are the commander of this army. How can I let you go? Until there was no one left. And again Abbas came to Imam al-Hussein, said, "Oh my master, give me permission to go out and fight." Imam said to him, "Abbas, you are the flag bearer of this army. You are my commander." Some say that Abbas replied back to the Imam, "But my heart does not accept it." But it was the tears that fell from the eyes of Abbas, coupled with the cries that came of the children of Al-Atash, Al-Abash, Al-Abash, that Imam al-Hussein knew what Abbas was saying. Where is that army for who I am the commander of? Where is that army for whom I carry this flag? Imam looks at him and says, "Abbas, if you must go, then let us go out and get water. But Abbas, before you go and see Zainab alayhi salam." Abbas enters into the tent of Zainab and he asks her for permission to leave. She looks at him and says, "Abbas, when my father Ali said to me on his deathbed that Zainab, there'll come a time where you will be taken as a prisoner in the streets. They will parade you and they will tie your arms and parade you through the streets of this very same Kufa. And I would always think to myself, how is that possible when I have a brother like Abbas? But today, Abbas, you stand in front of me, and I know that imprisonment and me being paraded in the streets is a reality that my father spoke about. Abbas, I won't hold you back. Abbas, go." Abbas alayhi salam mounts upon his horse. Imam al-Hussein mounts upon his horse. According to our older maqatil, both of them ride out together in the pursuit of water. They fight their way halfway through the army until the army realize if both Abi Abdullah and Abbas are together, we will never be able to stop them. So they drive a wedge of men between Imam al-Hussein and Abbas. They turn Abu Abdullah back towards the tents, and now Abbas is left alone. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas fights his way until he reaches the banks of the Furat. Abbas dismounts from his horse. He steps into the water of the Furat. He takes the bag of water, he fills it. And then he places his hand in the water and he lifts it. As soon as he sees the water in his hand, Abbas begins to address himself. He says, "Ya nafs min ba'd al-Husayn huni." Says, "Oh, what pleasure is there left in this world after your master Hussein? Will you drink from the water while your master drinks the syrup of death?" Abbas saying this, he throws back the water. He mounts back upon his horse. He begins to ride back. He's fighting his way back. One mal'oon hides behind a date palm. As Abbas passes through that forest of date palms, he strikes the right arm of Abbas. The right arm of Abbas is severed from his body. Abbas calls out, "Wallahi in kata'tumu yamini, inni uhami abadan an dini." He says, "By Allah, even if you cut my right arm, I will never stop defending the deen and the religion of Allah." Abbas continues riding. Another mal'oon attacks his left arm, severing the left arm of Abbas. Abbas now says to himself, "Oh nafs, don't be afraid of the kuffar. You focus on your aim." Abbas's aim is to get water towards Abi Abdullah. Abbas rides. Harmala says, "I realized that the heart of Abbas was in that bag of water. I took aim towards the bag. I fired an arrow. As soon as the bag was pierced and the water began to flow upon the ground, فوقف العباس. Abbas stopped his horse. Abbas stopped his horse. At that moment, Umar ibn Sa'ab turns to his army. He says, what are you waiting for? He orders his contingent of archers, 4,000 of them. They fire arrows towards Abul Fadl al-Abbas. The sky darkens over the head of Abbas. The arrows begin to strike the body of Abbas. One arrow embeds itself in the eye of Abbas. Abbas bends down. He tries to use his knees to pull the arrow out from his eye. As soon as Abbas is bent down, one Mal'oon comes from behind with an iron bar in his hand. He strikes the head of Abbas. Abbas no longer can stay upon the horse. Abbas falls to the earth of Karbala. He calls out, Ya Akha, Adrik Akha. Oh brother, come to the aid of your brother. When Abbas fell, there were 4 cries that were heard in Karbala. The first cry came from the army of Yazid. They called out, attack the tents of Hussein, for Hussein is gharib. He no longer has his Abbas with him. The second cry, it came from Abi Abdullah himself. When he heard the call of Abbas, he said, Alan inkasara dhahri. Now my back has been broken, Abbas, after you. The third cry came from the tent of Zainab. She said, oh, imprisonment. The fourth cry came from Sakina and the children of Bani Hashim that had awaiting Abbas for bringing water. All of a sudden, when they heard the cry of Abbas, they threw down their cups. Oh, Uncle Abbas, come back. We won't ask for water again. Abu Abdullah makes his way towards the body of his brother Abbas. As he approaches Abbas's body, he sees that he's surrounded by the enemies. All of them attacking Abbas as he lies on the ground. Abu Abdullah rides towards them, he attacks them, he makes them run away. And now Imam al-Hussein dismounts from his horse. He stands over the body of Abbas. Abbas, oh Abbas, that I that slept knowing that you are alive, today shall stay awake in fear. And Abbas, that I that stayed awake out of fear, knowing that you are alive, tonight will sleep in peace. Abu Abdullah stands. They say, why is it Hussein stood over the body of Abbas? When he went to the body of Ali Akbar, he laid down. When he went to the body of Qasim, he stayed with the body. When he went to the body of all of those shuhada, he went and he stayed there for a while. But here at the body of Abbas, Sayyid al-Shuhada is standing as if eager to leave. They say the reason for it is that when he went to the body of his Ali Akbar, he knew Abbas was in the tents. When he went to the body of Qasim, he knew Abbas was in the tents. When he went to the bodies of Awan and Muhammad, he knew his Abbas was in the tents. But now his Abbas lies in front of him. Hussein can't sit with the body of his brother. Abu Abdullah turns and returns towards the tents. They say, why is it Hussein didn't take the body of Abbas? Why is it that Hussein didn't carry back the body? Some say maybe it was the wasiyah of Abbas. Abbas said, Master, don't take my body back. Some say it is because they said attack the tents of Hussein, and so Imam al-Hussein had to return back to defend the tents. Others say no, maybe it is because Abbas, 35 years old Hussein, a 60-plus-year-old man, how could he lift the body of his young brother? But they say the most probable reason is that the maqtal has one line within it. It says when Abbas fell to the earth of Karbala and they surrounded him from all four sides, فَقَطَّعُوهُ بِسَيُوفِهِمْ إِرْبًا إِرْبًا. They mutilated the body of Abbas so badly that if Hussein wanted to lift the body of Abbas, if he lifted it from the left, the right would fall away. If he lifted it from the right, the left would fall away. مات ابن حسين.